All right, welcome to your fourth episode of Real People, Real Ideas, brought to you by Sustainable Intentions. And with me today, I have Marta Arellano. Did I say it right?
Correct.
She is an entrepreneur and she owns an eco hotel in Colombia as well as a permaculture farm. And she is my neighbor here in Bali, which is so cool because we just moved into this awesome villa and she was right next door to us and we just became immediate friends. So I thought I would have her on the podcast. So, yeah, Marta, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Mm, I'm from Colombia,
Mm-hmm.
mm, and I grew up in a paradigm or a set of cultural ideas that life was a struggle. You had to fight in life for things, and this is the way you find things in life, by fighting, by struggle, by it was very much like the law back then was who's stronger is the winner, and that's how I was raised
Yeah.
under that paradigm and that belief system. So that's what I did most of my life. I was fighting to attain things in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it maybe not from as fierce of a standpoint, but for sure for me, like when I was growing up, it was like if you don't work hard, like you have to work hard for what you want. You have to like break your back for what you want, otherwise you won't get anywhere in the world. So I mean, it's not as much of like a fight, but it is at the same time. It's like still a struggle.
Yeah, life is a struggle, life
Life is a
is hard, life
struggle.
is full of challenges, and
Mhm.
one big one is one big belief is that you learn through suffering, through pain, and that's changing. That is old paradigm, and
Yeah, I believe so.
yeah,
I believe that, of course, it's still important to work hard for something that you believe in, but life doesn't have to be a struggle. We can do things that we love, and we can find happiness, and we can find true friendships and relationships, and you know, still be able to survive financially and everything else. Still have enough security to where we're not, worried about whether or not we're going to eat at the end of the day.
yeah. One key thing. Anyway, I'll tell you. It's just that I went on a journey. For the first part of my life was about fighting and struggling. Yeah, until I got really sick because that fight and the struggle was inside of me. Yeah, it was. I was in a war with my internal world and my external world. And I grew up in a family that was in a war constantly,
Yeah.
each member with each other. But I saw my environment was in war in a
Yeah.
country that was in war. So war was my law in a way.
Yeah.
So that war was inside and was outside. So obviously I started getting very sick, to the point that I felt that I don't change something, I'm gonna die. I have two options. I got this route, continue, I'm gonna die. I was almost paralyzed, couldn't basically move. My back was terrible. I couldn't stand to wash dishes. Basically, the pain was intolerable. I was desperate. I was in a very bad state, in a spiral of negative thoughts, negative feelings, emotions, and it was really hard. I didn't know how to get out of there. All I knew was that I had to get out of that if I wanted to live. And even though I've done like healing work, I've been a seeker all my life. I have since childhood. I've been asking who's God and who am I.
Yeah.
So it's been a life journey. But so this first stage of my life, I'm a single mom. So I had to struggle, fight in the world to raise my children, two kids. I had to fight in the world and make it, and without much, I felt back then that I didn't have much tools or much, I didn't have much studies. I didn't have much tools, so had a lot of inner judgment and, negative dialogue in my mind, right? So obviously, with a lot of struggle arose my children, emotional, financial struggle. But even though all of that struggle deep down inside, I kind of felt that life was much more. That I was really not out of touch with the magical side of life. Yeah. So I guess that contrast, the knowing that life is amazing, is happy, is beautiful, that knowing that life is beautiful gives so much contrast to what I was really experiencing. I guess that sometimes they say that, that darkness or that negativity, it is a messenger, because it's telling you that you're not on the right path. You're not. It's giving you signals that life is shouldn't feel
Very
like
much
that.
so. And I think that too many of us wait until we're sick to really listen to all of those signs. Like we there's so much problems with obesity and diabetes and cancer and all of these other things, heart disease and all of this stuff, and we only look at these physical, what we can put right in front of our face causes. It's like, oh, well, because my arteries are clogged, I now have heart disease and I'm at risk of a heart attack. Okay, why are my arteries clogged? Well, because I eat too much. So the solution is, well, you shouldn't eat so much. But we don't look at, well, why do you eat too much? Right? What is causing you to constantly overeat and eat things that are unhealthy for you, even though you know that they're not good for you, right? So there must be some sort of emotional problem there that you're suppressing and you're not wanting to deal with. And so in turn, you eat too much, and then you come up, you end up with these diseases. So I think that it's really important that when we start to get sick, or even before we get sick, it'd be better if we noticed it before, but a lot of times we don't until the symptoms are there, that something is going wrong. But I think it's so important that we look at the very root causes, this unhappiness, right? Disease is dis-ease, right? So you're not going through life with this flow, you're fighting,
Yes, you're not at ease. You're in an internal fight. You're like, no, no to how I feel, no to how I look, no to how the world is. It's a no, constant. That's a battle. And this no is clashing, and this clashing is energetic, and it's at the cellular level. The cells either flow with ease or they fight. Yeah. So a lot of this work has to do with really turning in. Really, it is a turning point, but the turning is turning in, because the constant focus on the outside world or the circumstances is a big distraction, and because of that you overpass constantly all the internal activity, emotional, mental. So you are not really giving any attention to it, because all the attention is outside. So how can you become intimate and familiar and knowing all the inner aspects of yourself if you're not looking at them, right? So it's there's a beautiful quote that I saw the other day, says that something that he is, I don't know, like sickness or something. Instead, you don't heal it; it heals you. Because it's a guru, it's a teacher, it's a master that is giving you the signal that something is not in harmony here, something is not in alignment, something is not flowing well. Look. But obviously, because we were not taught to look inside, because when you open the box of what's inside, it's a Pandora box. It's a Pandora box of the collective conditioning. Because when we heal, we're not just healing, this little Marta entity here. We're healing the collective, because what made this entity what it is the genes and the up-to-date conditioning, of the collective. So this is the result of the collective. So Today I was thinking, I'm like, how beautiful it is. We really should support everyone's healing, because everyone's healing is a collective healing, you
Yeah.
know, and it's a, yeah, it's very beautiful.
Yeah, and it changes the, you know, thoughts, and even on a cellular level, what we pass on to our children as well, you know? The more of us that go through, you know, a really eye-opening experience of awareness and what really is and what's really important, the better it turns out for everybody else.
Absolutely, and is you know, when we hear that it's what's the word? I think quantic, or it is happening. My children are already, I see, my kids are 25 and 23. They're sort of interested in you know, in alternative living, in wellness, spirituality, you know.
Yeah.
Not fully immersed, because they're still, you know, a little bit in the stage of making it into the world and stuff. But I see already that my shifts, my inner shifts, energetic shifts, I can see them in my immediate family, because I've been dealing a lot with transgenerational karma and familiar family knots. A lot of my root problems, or you know, were family. I would say a big deal, maybe, I don't know, 80-90% were from childhood, or early childhood womb trauma and past, because I've been noticing how I've been asked by, even, you know, all of these processes have opened up a lot of my intuition, you know, because when I turn in, I've become familiar with myself. I've become familiar with my emotions, sensations, thought patterns. And it's beautiful. It's not anymore, don't need to run anymore, yeah? But so I've been noticing, because, you know, a lot of the pains, they almost have a voice. You can actually, you know, there's a therapy that says, I think it's called focus. You know, you can, if my shoulder pain had a voice, what would it say? And I discovered there was a little narrative in all these contractions and all these tensions, that they were wounded parts of me, right? At a very early age, my nervous system got very sensitive, very undeveloped in a way, because it was exposed to a lot of screaming, physical and verbal violence. What it does is, imagine if you're exposed to that, so you go like that. So that's what my inner child and my nervous system did. And I grew up with that. And unless I am willing to really look at that, I could live until whatever years I'm living, basically with stuck back then, right?
Yeah.
So contractions and tensions were traumas, or, you know, and they're not always, you know, by people who meant to harm you, you know, even sometimes the trauma could be that you were crying a lot and your mom was busy with something, couldn't give you attention, so you create a story or a little trauma, right? So in these contractions or traumas, we hold energy, right? So when you have hundreds, I don't know, lots of it, you end up like this. I was like that. My whole system, body mind system, was really like that. So through many different types of healing sessions and shamanic and plant medicine and yoga, all kinds of things that I've done, which I'm so happy about, I started discovering that there were a lot of contracted parts in me that where the light was not coming in. They were dark, because there was the light of awareness couldn't go in, and wasn't going in, because it was focused outside on all the problems and the battlefield that I was living in, you know. So disease, is the ease, is this openness, is where light can come in, where it can be seen, when there's less darkness, when there's flow, when there's no fighting between the cells, and at all the levels. So there's an ease, an openness, and then there's ease.
So you were in Colombia when all of this sickness and pain was going on, and then you just decided that you were going to leave and seek healing in other places, or did you, go through like doctors and do all this other stuff in Colombia before you
Well,
left?
I've been doing. I've never really liked doctors, normal doctors,
Yeah.
so I didn't explore it. I knew it was a waste of time. They have no
Yeah.
idea what they're talking
Yeah, and they
about.
only just are going to give you some pills to take. That's not going to heal the problem. It's only going to, make you not think about it for a while until it ends up being worse in the long run.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they don't understand the relationship, the intimacy of our own being, our physical, mental being. They no understand. So I've done a lot of different, kind of Reiki. I've done angel therapy, massages. What else I've done? I started doing yoga when I was 23 years old. Yoga has
Yeah.
been my medicine, my companion.
Yeah.
But the yoga also, everything, all the structures that I built in my life were from that paradigm. From sometimes they call it 3D mindset.
Yeah.
The 3D mindset where
Okay.
everything is like hard and pointy, masculine a lot, very pointy corners, like
Yeah.
everything was pointy. I could feel like the sharp, pointy corners in my body of all that I built. So I knew that I needed to escape everything I built, everything, everything that was like, everything that I had a relationship with, because I knew that it was contaminated from the same belief system. So I'm like, I don't care if everything falls down, if my the houses I built,
Yeah.
houses of
Yeah.
the buildings I built in my life fall, because everything can fall, because my whole being is falling apart. So,
Yeah.
my whole body is falling apart. So everything can fall. My relationship with my husband, my business, because I built an amazing, beautiful business, is a wellness center, is a healing center. But obviously the message was like the voice, that nice voice that we have, the voice, the good voice was saying, what are you playing at? You have a wellness center and you are not well.
Yeah.
You are the core. You gave birth to this project.
Yeah.
If you're not in well-being, you cannot replicate well-being. The fountain of well-being is inside you. No, this is absurd. So I was ready to let go my relationship with my husband, with my business. I was ready to let it fall. My children were already big and living on their own, not with me. So I was ready to leave everything and ready to travel alone, which was a teenage dream that I had, to travel alone. So it was amazing, because also I had to, in this journey I've had to face fears. It's been the most magical journey, but I've had to face fears of, as a woman traveling alone, and that's been such a deep teacher of like how much fear closes us up.
Very much so.
Very much. Physical, mental, all of this is, at all levels,
That goes very well into, the things that we're taught when we're young as well, Like even now, I remember actually I went to Colombia a few years ago, maybe like 8 years ago. And I remember when I was planning on going to Colombia and talking to people about it, they were like, "You're going to Colombia? Like, you can't go there. Like, it's dangerous there. You can't just like go to Colombia. Like, who are you going to meet? What are you going to do?" Like, but it's the truth is, out of all of the places that I've been in the world, like probably 70% of them I wouldn't have gone to if I listened to everybody who had something bad to say about a place that they had never even been before. That the only view they had of a place was something that they heard or something that they learned from TV, or they watched that show Narcos and they were talking about Pablo Escobar or whatever, and it's not the same place anymore. And my impression of Colombia was that the people were very lovely, like I really enjoyed it, and it's a beautiful country. But I think it's really important that we have to break down these walls, these security walls that we've been taught when we're younger, which is you know, it's dangerous to travel. It's dangerous to go to these places. You know, you don't know anybody there, and especially for women too. You know, it's like, oh, you can't go by yourself. You're a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why can't you go by yourself? Like, of course, there are, you know, there are things to worry about sometimes, but as long as you have, you know, your head on your shoulders and you're, you know, you're smart about what you do, there should be no reason that a woman couldn't travel anywhere that a man can travel. You know?
Yeah, totally. You know, for me, one of the biggest let's say, fears to overcome was to go to India by myself, because I got attacked the first time I went to India 17, 18 years ago. I got attacked. So the two first times I went to India was with a partner, but this time I'm like, okay, I'm going alone because India is calling me in my heart. And well, what is beautiful is you see how the whole story is beautiful. You know, even the warrior story that I started this conversation with, because while I was in India, I discovered that this body-mind mechanism, this personality that God gave me, you know, it has an amazing skills too. So I am becoming even more familiar and even more appreciative of this. I found I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. I'm very resourceful when you know, because I grew up in an environment that taught me little signals that meant something. So I'm very aware of, you know, when there's little danger. I am very prepared. I'm very, in a way, if I need to armor, I'm ready to armor. But I'm learning to disarmor, because I was in armor 24/7.
For the majority of the
life.
Yeah.
So this is coming back to disarmor, because why? Because also I've been discovering this unconditional support of life. That has been key in this process. That I always, like most of us, believe that we are a separate wheel in the world, a separate doer with all this, and the doer does it right or wrong, and if it does it wrong, it gets punished by itself, internal judgment, punished by society, punished, you know, by your circle of friends. So discovering this support that is constantly. One teacher that I really like, she calls it boundless support, boundless awareness, no, boundless support. I started exploring that actually there's something holding me, holding me, holding me constantly, all the time, physically, mentally, at all levels. Again, so the seat that supports me, the floor that I walk in, the air. So it's wait a minute, there's a big mother that is giving me, nourishing me all the time. It's giving me a floor, a bed to sleep, like a support. So when I started really connecting somatically, because a lot of this work, a lot of the suffering was felt on the body. Where do you know, when you're suffering, you feel it in the body?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so a lot of for me, the key component here was through the suffering of my body was an enter point. I didn't want a lot of philosophies, which I mean, at a certain time they were important, a lot of philosophies, but they stay in this realm a lot. So, but I was understanding a lot of the concepts of non-duality and Advaita and all that, but I was still suffering a lot in my body. I was still, without knowing, without a reason, I would wake up some days with like needles, pain, a lot of pain on my shoulders. I would totally notice that some days were difficult, but so I started first accepting that some days are different than other days, because I didn't want to add more. You know, all this self-judgment of it shouldn't be like that, I shouldn't feel like that. I've done so much healing work. These voices trying to say, but you know, in this process of becoming very aware, you start seeing the little voices, the different type of voices that are inside. There's some nice voices.
And some other that aren't so nice.
Yeah, some nice that tell you, it's like a guru. That's why it's called the Sadguru. Sadguru is your inner guru. It told us at times, like in satsang, you know, it tells me things. Analyze this, look how beautiful this. And then there was the other voice but what it turned out to be is that other voice is the wounded child. It's the afraid child that tells me, all the things that that I shouldn't do, that I would get punished for, because I got a lot of punishment when I was little.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I grew up in a Catholic society with a
Yeah.
lot of concepts on sin, shame, and guilt.
Yes.
So these three are some of the heaviest vibrationally.
Yeah.
These are a lot to do with vibration too.
Very much so.
Very dense emotions. So yeah, so when I started looking, okay, is that undoing of all this programming that was placed on the body mind, and how do I feel when I feel guilty? So there's a whole chemical reaction and sensations. So as I enter through the body, from the somatic experience, I entered through the body, I started becoming familiar with, oh, this is, okay, this is what I'm feeling is guilt. But you have to become really subtle, because it requires a lot of sharp attention to start sensing and becoming familiar with the different types of vibrations.
Differentiating between the different ones, because we tend to resort to one thing or another. You know, we might be feeling fear, but we turn that into anger because that's something we're familiar with. That's some way that we still feel a bit more secure or have a bit more power. So we tend to turn to emotions or link them together, but finding the subtle differences between each one, that's really
it's
interesting.
Very interesting, because obviously we're talking about like inner landscape. It's like Muji said, man goes to the moon or to the other planets, but the discoveries inside are very beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you haven't really paid attention, you really don't know. It's like a clump of emotions. You don't really know. So it's a beautiful process that we all deserve. We all deserve to give to ourselves that coming home of all the parts of ourselves that have been wounded, have been hurt, have been rejected, neglected. Obviously, you put them. That's the shadow. The shadow is all that you send to the back, because I don't like this part of me. I'm ugly. I'm not good enough. I'm inadequate. I should be more pretty. I should be more whatever, more spiritual, whatever. Yeah. So all of these. So and the turning in and in the inviting all these parts. That's the home we're looking for, because it's like I accept me with all my parts. And if you're my child and you're wounded, how if I punish you more, I'm not going. This child is not one that this child that is hurt wants to be seen and wants to be held and wants to be accepted, and so they're not our enemies.
The shadow self. The shadow self is not an enemy, and finding the balance. I see that misconception a lot. When people start talking about yoga and meditation, a lot of times it's like this idea that yoga and meditation is supposed to make me just be happy all the time. I should be more positive. I should take this and I should turn this around to be more positive, or I should take that and turn it around to be more positive. And while there's always different ways to look at stuff, and some things can be turned into a positive situation, we have to acknowledge the emotions that we're experiencing. And we have to acknowledge that darker side of ourselves, like when something happens and I get that feeling of disgust, or I get that feeling of anger, or I get that feeling, I'm not supposed to suppress that feeling. I'm supposed to figure out why I'm feeling that way. What is it that makes me feel this way? I'm also not supposed to lash that anger out on somebody else, or put somebody else down to make them feel the way I'm feeling, but to explore, to allow yourself to feel the emotion, and then to explore why you're feeling that way and make connections. And you don't you don't even always have to, when you're making the connections, to try and fix it. It's not always something that needs to be fixed. It's just something that needs to be acknowledged. You know, that side of you is coming out because you have been hiding it away, and it just needs to be shown. You know, it needs to show you this experience that you're having. So
Yeah, because fixing has an agenda of getting rid of. You know,
yeah,
there's a
exactly.
Jeff Foster is one of my
Or
favorite
and it goes
non-duality
along
teachers.
with I'm not good enough. I need to fix this part of me, right? Go on.
It's
sorry.
inadequate. I used to have the thought, and I just discovered, you know, obviously, probably most people have it, but you know, because this is part of the shadow and the collective shadow that we don't talk about these things. So I used to have the belief that I was unfixable, that I had to fix myself, but I was so bad that I was unfixable. You know,
Yeah.
even so bad, like I was like the worst. I
Yeah.
felt like had terrible thoughts that I was unfixable, and you know.
Yeah,
And
like I'm
recently,
just giving up. I'm going to hell.
you
I
know,
know it. I'm just giving up. And
like you know, like
yeah,
and recently I heard an interview with a man that I love a lot that talks about early childhood trauma, how it manifests in all your life and in adulthood, and how it develops in addictions. His specialty is
Yeah.
addictions. His name is Gabor, and he said that he said he had the same. I'm like, oh my God, you're not the only one who thought that you were unfixable. And probably, you know, if people see this interview,
yeah,
maybe they will relate with that thought that would say, oh, you know, I had a thought that I believe that said, you don't deserve well-being.
Yeah.
Some very deep
yeah,
program thoughts, yeah. So yeah, a lot of different techniques have helped me. There have been tools. So I feel that this journey, I've been traveling for 13 months, and I will finish my trip. By the end, I will be traveling for 1 year and a half. It's almost, I take it as a master's degree in myself.
yeah,
Yeah. So this inner turning became like my object of study, like a scientist that is really interested in all these little reactions and motivations. So at the beginning, you know, this is a purification process. You see, for a while you may continue reacting, you know, like exploding the
Yeah.
whole way, but something is ceasing. Ceasing is the word?
season
Ceasing.
or
Like something is finishing.
Yeah, okay.
And being undone, because in this process, then you are not adding on top. We're like, oh shit, I reacted, I'm terrible, I should know, I should learn better, I should know, you know. That is starting to slow down. So
Yeah.
even if you react, you know, vomit all your shit, and someone like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Sorry, you know, again, with my shit. Like recently, I you know, I had this pattern of really reactivity. I was I could be very aggressive with my words. And very recently, something happened that triggered in me that it was beautiful, because I took it as I'm in a university. I get exams, you know. That was an exam. I went. Someone sent me a message. Oh, you didn't pay for this yoga class. Obviously, I paid. So what happened is the whole mechanism was this. The thought came and said, oh, how can they think I don't pay? You know, I'm a very honest person. You know, that narrative started talking. My brother, you know, and they, you know, I'm gonna go and tell them. So I went and I told them, what do you mean I didn't pay? You know, all of this very armor, the way I used to deal before. A little bit less. The volume was less than before, you know, a little bit less. So the man on the other side was kind of calm, and you know, but at some point I noticed that hey, wait, the nice voice came and said, you know, you can still tell them what you think, but you can tell them nice, you know. There's an option, because you can look for clarification without having to have all this emotion, because it triggers a whole armor, which is fight or flight, which takes us to the next topic, which is the nervous system and the fight or flight. So
and the adrenaline
the
and all the chemicals that
the
go
muscles,
with it.
It's in a way, this system intoxicates you. It's very toxic.
Yeah, very much so.
So because in this university program I'm doing about myself, I have the time. So now I now I have more choice. I'm like, is it worth it to activate all this for this point? No, I can say it more calmly. At the end, I told the man, look, I'm going to explain you. I'm in a spiritual path, and I'm going to explain you. I got triggered because of this. I had this voice in my head saying this. I apologize for the energy. I came to you, and it was so healing. It was very beautiful. He received me. He also apologized. Anyway, it was very beautiful. So that's the difference. That I didn't have to add much guilt to the whole thing. And it got resolved faster.
Yeah, you didn't have to continue, as that defense mechanism. Like once you already came at something a certain way, and then sometimes we have that defense mechanism that even if we know that maybe we shouldn't have reacted that way, we continue because we don't want to be wrong, or we don't want to feel like we've done something wrong, and then we leave that situation, like you said, still feeling guilty.
And then you end up, it's very self-violent, self-violent, because you recruited all this system to defend you, but then when you found out that it wasn't necessary, you add guilt and all that, which is more war. It's more war. So, and a big invitation here is to really turn in and observe where the war is happening in you.
Very much so.
Where the war is physically, where the war is mentally, where are you? This is this is, because war is this is, right? So turning in and looking where you're having war, what part of your body are you feeling the war? And self-compassion, because a lot of these shared issues we have are not, basically all of them, they're not ours. We are innocent children. We are the children of the divine. We're innocent. We are a complete product of our programming. And so...
and I like the concept that you said about this journey that you're on now being like a master's degree in life. And it's so funny because so many of us are so quick to be like, oh yeah, that sounds nice what Marta is doing, but it's probably very expensive to go to all those countries and to do all these healings, and I can't really afford that, and I need to do my job, and I need to do it. But it's at the same time, it's like, well, but how much will you spend, especially people coming from the United States, how much will you spend on your education, like your formal education, your 4 years at a university, and then a master's degree on top of that, and then you come out of the university, you have $100,000 or $120,000 that you're in debt for, and then you have to continue to pay on that. Or if you're sick, how much money will you spend on your insurance and your doctor's visits and your prescriptions and all of this other stuff? But then you won't spend that money on yourself to just go and actually find some way to heal. And of course the ways to heal don't always just, it's not like just, oh, this is a program, I'm going to go here, I'm going to spend 1 month here, and then when I'm done, I'm going to be completely cured of everything. It's a process, and you fix one thing and it just opens up something else, and you fix that, and you just keep finding things that you want to work on. And I say fix, but I don't mean fix. Things that you experience, things that you learn. It's really
because they are calling. You can't ignore them. They're calling. They're like, look, I'm here. Then that is what's present at the moment. You could continue in your fantasy life. Oh, the day I'm pain free. The day I'm this. That day I will be present, that day I'll be happy, but the reality is that is the reality of the moment. That is the truth of this moment. Are you going to continue escaping the reality, or are you going to be here sitting in your living room with your fear, with your anger, with your depression, with your sadness? I want to sit with you.
Yeah, and it is an escape, and that's what you were speaking about, addiction. And it's so funny because it's like, well, yeah, but I stopped drinking. Yeah, but you stopped drinking and you haven't dealt with your problems, so you just find something else to escape from those problems. You start working too much. because now you're not drinking, or you stop working so much and now you are addicted to skydiving or something because it gives you that rush of energy that makes you forget about these other things that are going on inside your head. And at what point, for me, I think it was, when I quit my job and everything, I started traveling. I started going to all these new places, but then after a while, this place would get old. So I'd go to a new place and this place would get old and I'd go to a new place. And then it wasn't until I eventually sat down and thought, like, man, maybe there's something here that I need to change, not the external, not the scenery that I'm at, but I need to work on, what's in here. What am I constantly running from, And I think that was a big breakthrough for me, that, yeah, just that understanding. And when we start to sit and we start to go through it, things come like healing and processes, they show up in your life. Like,
I have to say, you have to be very brave in this. This is, we were a little bit addicted to pleasure. The society is addicted to pleasure, to only feeling good things. And if what your internal reality is discomfort, obviously you don't want to sit with that because it's painful, but it's already there, it's already there. So you might sit with it. I had one night, I remember, because I had a nerve inflammation on my back, and one night I was in my bed with an intense, I was taking painkillers, like doctors' painkillers, like really strong, and they were not really working, thanks God. Thanks God they were not working, because otherwise I would have not discovered what I discovered, because that night I was in my bed in my parents' house, where all the emotional volume was highest, with all my conditioning was on the highest. So I was in a lot of pain that night, and I'm like, I can't resist anymore this pain, I can't fight this pain anymore. It was a lot of pain, but on the other side of that pain, when I surrendered to that pain, I'm like, I can't escape this pain. I don't have anywhere to escape this pain. You are too big. You are so big. You're here. And it was like a breakthrough. It was like a breakthrough of acceptance, of deep acceptance. So this message, what I want to say is that a lot of us live in internal discomfort. And there was a moment where you need a lot of bravery to sit with that discomfort, but it's calling you anyway. You can't escape it, and you go and drink, and the next day it's there, still there. You can't escape it. So there's gonna be there's moments of pain, but discomfort, inner discomfort, this uncomfortableness with oneself. But it will pass, and what all this big discomfort is the volume of all the parts that are like, please, 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 look at me, like, listen. Once that big chunk pass, you can 1 second, what I was saying. Then you can be that acceptance, that love, that okay, you're here. It's more pain, more than the pain is the pain of, the biggest pain is the pain of running away from ourselves. That is the biggest pain in this life. It's the biggest pain. It's the separation from out there, from running away from ourselves. So that is the biggest pain, and that is what the teachers, the book talk about, our self-love, all of that, is to be there for yourself, is to be
and to be who you want to be, not who you think other people want you to be.
Unapologetic, awkward, weird, all of that, ugly.
This is so much more fun once you get rid of that worry about what everybody else is going to think about you, and you just start to be yourself. And then you realize also that the relationships you make with people, they're so much more like real. They're so much tighter, those relationships, because that person knows you, how you really are. And even if maybe you do something that's really embarrassing every now and then, but they don't judge you for it, and they don't talk bad about you behind your back,
because they don't judge themselves.
Yeah.
Like, this is an inside job. When we all do this inside job, we can start accept each other, because when I accept myself, I'm not expecting you to feel my void, to feel my hole.
Yeah.
I'm already happy. I'm the happiness and the love that I was looking for outside, so I don't feel alone. So what I have to share with you is with less agenda. There's no agenda like, are you gonna like me? Can you give me your energy? You know, behind the scenes, this is a lot of the dynamic of what's going on in relationships. Are you gonna give me your energy? Are you gonna give me your acceptance? Are you gonna tell me and validate me and tell me that I'm pretty, that I'm worth it? That because I don't give this to myself. So in these dynamics are like, give me, you know. And when you don't give me, then you're like the bad guy. And
like that expectation of another person is going to fix these problems that I have in my life. That this other person, whether they're a friend or they're your parents or their intimate relationship, that they have something that I don't already have, and that's why I need them in my life. But you have all of that. You just have to find it. And when you find it all, then you find the people that mean the most to you, because you're not looking for something in them. You know, you're not trying to fix yourself with them. You're just seeing them for who they are. And that's beautiful, right?
Yeah, it's so much fun. We don't have, I enjoy myself, I enjoy with you, it doesn't matter what is going on, because you are the acceptance. So then you're like, everything is good. I mean, obviously, I don't know, because I haven't yet been in this understanding for a long time. I know this changes and evolves and deepens. That's another thing that we don't, if you're watching this and you're interested in some of the things that we are saying here, we all have a unique journey. So some of the things, you might like and use them, or not, discard whatever you don't like. But it's a constant, it's constantly revealing itself in new ways. It's you can't really, like Nuji said, you don't make a tattoo of this. These are guidance, and we're sharing our journey. And one beautiful concept that came across very recently is called the hero's journey. The hero's your hero's journey, meaning like all of that shit. I'm like, oh, why so much shit in my life? Why so much darkness? Why so much suffering? Because when you start seeing the shit, you're like, shit, why is so? And I you go a little bit into a victim, like. Part of the process is like, oh my God,
why is all
so
this
happening
to me?
Why did I grow up in this environment anyway? But that recently, beautifully, I heard some book or somewhere calling the hero's journey. That it makes sense. All that happened.
I love the concept of hero's journey. That each one of us is the hero in our own story. And all of these things that we have to fight through in our lives is only, that's the story that leads up to the peak, that we can break free and we can overcome all of these things, and that makes us this amazing hero by the end of our story,
Yes,
and it's constantly unfolding in our lives, and it's also not that you're going to right now have some amazing, like, one-time breakthrough, and now the rest of your life is going to be perfect and nothing bad is ever going to happen to you again. There's always going to be things to overcome, but that's what makes our lives exciting, right? That's what makes our lives like this experience that we get to go through. But yeah, I really love that, the hero's journey, and like, because I also like to look at myself as a hero, like I get to be the hero of this. I get to be the protagonist, the person who like overcomes some amazing obstacle in my life. It's a wonderful point of view to have.
Yeah, then it start makes sense that your parents and your people around you were playing a role so that you could have those challenges and experiences Yeah, and yeah, it's true. It's unique. You know, I obviously I've been reading spiritual books for a long time, and you know, in a certain stage, I was comparing. I was using that understand. You see, my inner
Mm.
makeup of beliefs. You would take that and like, you see, you know, the voice. You see, you're not like them. You see, you're not.
Yeah.
And in a way, it was true because it was not gonna be ever like anyone I read. There were clues and little things, but it's been unfolding in me in my own way. This wisdom. So in a way, yeah, it could never look like my neighbor's awakening or my neighbor's.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's everybody has their own story, right? Everybody has their own journey to walk. So, we can, like you were saying before, we can look for guidance from other people's paths. We can look for inspiration from other people's paths, but we have to make the path for ourselves.
Because
Nobody.
it unfolds.
Yeah.
It is unfolding. This is the truth. You're not even making it. It is
Yeah.
unfolding on your own. Your inner experience and our experience is unique to you. So that is where you're at.
Yeah. That's really beautiful.
And so because of you sometimes feel you're going back 2 steps going forward is not linear. This process of, let's say, purification or whatever, or integration, or getting to embrace your all parts of you, it's a journey. So some days, you're like, oh, some days I wake up with like my heart like I love it, the whole world, everything, and the next day I feel like, again, like the shit heavy. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening, But so it requires a lot of patience, a lot of patience and compassion. So a lot of patience. Okay, yeah, still here. This heaviness still here, and who knows? Okay, fine, you're here, fine. I can have you today with me. Okay, let's go for lunch.
Yeah.
You can just and it's softer, it's smoother. It's a more gentle approach rather than fuck. I shouldn't be this and like where like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. But at the same time, let's talk just a little bit about your project in Colombia, because it's already running along. But we got like straight in really deep, really fast with that conversation, and I really like that about you. It seems like every time you pass by here, it's like, oh yeah, where are you going? Well, I'm headed to the market, but, and then we like 30 minutes of talking about some really good.
That what is beautiful is I've also been noticing that in this is that when we open our hearts is I see it like the Care Bears. Remember the Care Bears?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cute because the Care Bears have like a rainbow, and it's like a highway where from your wisdom or your discoveries are being shared from your heart to me, and same that way or to the next person. So I've been literally noticed how much all this is like they had like, I remember the Care Bears I think had like jewels, like jewels and like little pearls or jewels of wisdom. So we share that for the love of sharing. What we're doing right now is coming from the love of sharing.
For our own personal growth as well, listening to your story, listening to Kelly's story, listening to all these other people's stories helps me with mine, helps me with all the decisions that I make in my life. I really like it. Alright, so La Sirena?
Sirena.
Sirena
is siren, like siren.
Yeah, like this.
Mermaid.
Like a mermaid.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. And it's an Eagle Hotel in Palomino, Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when did you start this?
I started. I was called by this territory, this land, 17 years ago. I was drawn there. Everything that I heard about this place, it was very discovering a way. Obviously, the indigenous tribes that live there have been living for hundreds of years, thousands of years there before the Spaniards. So I came there to this place. I fell in love. I totally recognized the beauty and the untouchedness and the realness of this place. And I bought it 17 years ago without the idea of having a hotel or any kind of project. Later I started manifesting because I started really becoming interested in sustainable living and living off the grid.
Yeah.
Years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I started becoming really interested in that. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect because, you know, I can live off the grid. I won't need the system. I was a little bit into like ¿cómo se llama? The conspiracy theory back then, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, we'll do a whole little world where you don't have to do anything outside.
Yeah.
And I found Christopher, who's been my partner after I bought the land. He's been my partner in life, so we share similar values and ideas. And then, yeah, so with the beginning, the intention was to live sustainable there. It was a coconut farm that had the original forest a little bit taken down. They left a few big trees. And when the time was passing, I was feeling my love for that place was growing and growing and growing as for the whole area. You know, not just my piece of land, but the whole area because it has amazing mountains and everything. So out of that love started being born this really deep desire to look after it, to take good care, and this deep belief that my settling in this land could be harmonious and didn't have to be harmful for the land, and the opposite. The more loving and caring, she will return that to me. So it started developing my relationship with, you know, what I call, you know, what we call Mother Earth, with the earth. Very deep relationship and deep love, and you know, she cares for me so much, and this place out of that love started developing. And so we have eco cabanas, we have composting toilets, grey water reuse, solar energy fully powered by solar, it's yoga studio, vegetarian restaurant, on the farm. It's 3 hectares of land that after we actively started planting trees about maybe 16 years. I remember the first things I planted were maybe 15 years ago, let's say, right? So the biggest teaching this place has given me is that places can transform, you can regenerate, you can restore places, so that there's a big hope, because we believe that, oh, the planet is destroyed, we destroy all it has no reverse, blah blah. I'm not talking about heavily contaminated, because this place was not contaminated with like petroleum or whatever, no. But it was deforested. So the soil, the quality of the soil was really poor, all of that. So in these years, this place has transformed to the point that has a different weather. You create new climates.
You create microclimates.
Microclimates. So in these new microclimates, new species grow. So it's a whole new turn in what's possible there, and so it's a success, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's it's what we want to do as well, Kelly and Lan. So we want to build a permaculture farm, and for anybody who's not too familiar with permaculture, it's farming, it's using natural cycles of the earth. So instead of growing a monoculture and then just taking a yield from it, cutting it all down, burning it or discarding it and then planting again, and this way we're just keep taking from the earth, taking. This is a whole system where, everything works together, and technically there really is no waste, because we're finding a use for all of that. Waste is basically a human concept, because before we started creating all these things, there was no waste on this planet. Everything served its purpose, and everything was regenerated into the earth and turned into something else. And so that's what we're trying to move back to. and it's more sustainable, and it's not only sustainable, but it's regenerative.
And
You
it
know?
fits you because but I find that permaculture contextualize you within the system because we are decontextualized, by culture, by our big
Yeah,
city.
yeah.
We are like this
We
object.
separate ourselves.
Yeah, and it's
from,
even in it's amazing because in non-duality and Advaita and all of that, we talk about the separate self, that the belief on separate self,
yeah.
right? So this separate self, feels that it's separate from the whole, So in permaculture, you get plunged back into the system, contextualize. You know what your part is and what your real size is. Not like I'm bigger because I have money.
Exactly, and not that you have to release that control over, I'm going to plant this and I'm going to plant this and it's going to grow this way and I want it to do this and I want it to do that. Your main part is to observe, and then you can influence here or there, but the earth is going to do what it wants, and the more you observe what it's trying to do, the more you can work with it instead of trying to work against it. And permaculture, it excites me. So I could talk all day about
it. It's amazing. Once you're plunged into this, you're plunged into your real spot, not the spot you believe you were. That the spot that society gave in a social ecosystem where you are someone because you study or you have, in this natural ecosystem, your real place, and then because of you're in the cycle feeds you again. It feeds you like it feeds all the parts, all the beings that are part of it feeds you, and you feed it back, So it's very, very beautiful, very harmonious. You somatically and your body also feel the harmony of living in that cycle.
Yeah, and it's really wonderful too what you're doing because a lot of the things that go along with traveling are not that sustainable. We tend to go to these big resorts and things, and they just, because they're based on like a strong sense of consumerism, we're always creating more waste, and our vacation or our holiday ends up being something that is bad for the planet. Whereas you can go, there's more and more places like this that are showing up where you can go and have a beautiful holiday and visit an amazing part of the world, and you're actually helping. You're not taking away from the land. It's true because look,
for example, my slogan was, we believe that conscious tourism can make places better. Because when you use it, the money as a resource that you obtain in tourism and you plunge it back into the system, then it can feed and nourish the system, right? So, for example, the composting toilets, I have a little sign on the composting toilets, and at the end it says, thanks for your pee and poo. Because they're actually nourishing the system. When the pee and the poo is used to feed the system back, it feeds you. It feeds you in the future. The problem is in most places the pee and the poo is sent to the shadow side. It's not different. It's a manifestation of our internal. It's the same. It goes into the shadow. There's something at the back that where my waste goes, where my consumerism goes.
And it's also something that we're taught is disgusting and is bad, It's just like so much of
exactly. So the more the less I turn around and see my pee and my poo and my waste and my garbage, the less I'm going to bring it back. I integrate it with all the parts. These are all the parts of me. It's coming back to oneness in a different, spiritual, mental, physical, all the levels. And so for example, the pee and poo feeds the system. It comes back to me. It's not something bad, ugly, the same emotions, ugly, bad, that I don't want to see. And for the result is because our soil in general is a very poor soil. We do agriculture in sand. It's a heroic thing, because people who know about agriculture know how hard it is to retain nutrients and water in the sand. The sand, everything goes down.
Drains right through.
So we had to build on top of the sand. We've been having to build a vegetable layer of
organic matter.
Organic matter. So, what was I saying about the pool? For example, I have an area of citrus trees, oranges and all that, very close to the ocean. You know, for a normal agriculture project, it's about 50 meters from the ocean. I have my citrus area.
Which is amazing.
And I have, because we spray them with the pee that we separate from the men's toilet. We separate the pee in that toilet particularly. We let it mature. We add water. It's a whole technique anyway. It gives so much fruit. It loves it. It loves the pee.
Actually, human urine, especially if you're eating a vegetarian diet, is one of the most effective fertilizers that you can give back to plants. And so essentially every time we flush the toilet, not only are we wasting water, but we're taking all of the nutrients that we've consumed and we're flushing them out into the ocean, which is actually more toxic for the ocean. But if we were to go out into, the forest, essentially, and urinate, of course you don't want to pee in the same spot every single time because too much fertilization will always kill something. But that's like more than any chemical that we've ever been able to come up with. Human urine is basically the best fertilization that you can give to a plant. And so now you're able to grow a citrus orchard so close to the beach in sandy soil because you're reusing what we would normally consider in our society as waste that we don't want to think about and we're pushing away. And that's amazing.
Yeah, really that's amazing. And from the kitchen, for example, we have a restaurant. So, okay, you can leave the different scale projects of permaculture. You can have a family unit, father, mother, kids, and you can have your own little permaculture, or you can have bigger projects like mine, which sometimes I have 40 guests staying in the cabanas and maybe 30 people having lunch. So I could have at the same time in these 3 hectares of land, I could have maybe 70 people in high season. So it's a big, imagine 70 pee, 70 poo, 70 waste, 70 taking water. So it requires to plan really well, but you can live harmoniously at a small scale or at a bigger scale. That was the challenge, that at a bigger scale you can still do it.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Well, we're going to have to wrap up a little bit, but so that's the website for that is EcoSirena, so ECOSIRENA.com. So if you want to check that out, if you want to possibly take a holiday or vacation down to Colombia, that would be amazing. You would be doing something wonderful for yourself and wonderful for the planet at the same time. Please check out her website, and thank you so much for coming and talking. Like, this conversation just flowed so well. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share what I've been feeling so passionate about, and really feeling I wanted to talk about and share this, that it's been such amazing discoveries for me that I want to share and help others and tell them there's so much hope. You think you're like in the worst place in your life, there's so much hope, So that's my big message. There's so much hope, and if you have any questions, you can always where they can send. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So just if you want to leave a comment or send me an email, I'll make sure that it gets forwarded to Marta. And actually, I can put, if you want to, I can put email.
Yeah, you can put my email. I'm happy to share anything about that has to do with the things that have helped me to come back to myself.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. It was a pleasure, as always.
Thank you.